Welcome back to another episode of Equitas Insights, a video series of conversations with industry leaders that provide an in-depth understanding on the relevant topics in the HR and recruitment industry. This month, we had the opportunity to speak with Riham Satti, who is the CEO and founder of Mavitai, on the importance of creating a diverse workforce and how to promote equality in the hiring process.
So when I think about it, the whole blind screening process. So the idea of a CV doesn't need to have the information it does, because now I'm thinking to myself that, okay, you have the blind screening process, but without that, I mean, buyers will probably still continue in that kind of wide way, and we wouldn't be actually making any progress. But I think to myself, is there a reason to even have things like hobbies and interests on a CV, or even like university names, or job titles? Couldn't it just be something as plain as, this is the skills that I have, and this is where I specialize in? Why does the CV have to go through all that hassle of having all that information? That's one thing I never get.
Yeah, and I guess it's because it's always, for many decades, so it's always been like that, right? I think the first form of a CV kicked in during kind of the World War period, when it's always kind of been like that. It's evolved in different formats, but it's always that piece of paper that has your date of birth, your name, your location or address, your university dates, graduation grades, etc. But some things on there, and some candidates put a photo of themselves on their CV, right? And some people put their marital status on there. We discovered that about 25 to 30% of candidates put their religion on their CV. And sometimes I question why that's on there, but it's what's important is organizations should be looking at the skills and the competencies
Exactly.
When determining talent, because like I said, name is not going to have an impact, right? Neither, if the hobbies and interests are not related to the role, why do you need to know if I knit or not, right? It's not going to make a huge difference, unless the only other argument is that it might be for cultural fit. But how do you define that, right? There's no kind of rule to it. And so there's some things that you really don't need to know, not until later on anyway, right? Exactly. You're gonna meet, if I apply for a role, you're going to meet me when you have a phone screen or on the interview. But why does that matter at the very beginning, when it's important is to know if I've got the skills, the capabilities to do that job? And it's also important to note that different people from different backgrounds kind of portray and write their CVs differently, right? And also there's a lot of research that was saying about, men apply if they feel that they're 100%, if they don't tick all the boxes, they'll still apply to a role. Whereas women only do it if they, fit 60%, for example. And so the same thing on CVs, right? A lot of candidates don't put everything they've done. Even though they're, someone from the same background or similar background would put it all. And you can easily miss talent that way. So it's not a matter of what's on there, but sometimes it's what's not on there that can really help. And that's where I think technology can really start to play a role, because, let's say we have two applicants, both went to the same university, did the same course. One lists all the modules they've studied, and the other one just listed the degree. But they both did the same university, same course. So technically, they would have done the same modules. But if you see that on a CV, and if a recruiter sees that, would they have known that? And sometimes that can also impact things. So it's using other methods apart from just blind recruiting helps with being able to remove those kind of personal identifiable information you don't need. But you've got technology then that can allow you to screen applicants that uses external data to kind of try and make sure people are being funneled in and shortlisted to a position as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really interesting to know. One thing that I have realized a lot of people are doing, they would have the CV, and they would have like the cover letter. Now these two, they're requesting so much more information. Like there's one thing, they want to see your skills, but they want to know why you want to work for the company. And I get that from the company's perspective, but at the same time, it's like the main goal is to know if this person can, complete those skills, can be competent enough to work for the company. That's a key thing, because you're not employing someone that's just, you know, based on their race, their name, or if they're going to be like, you know, a team player or stuff. I mean, obviously there's different areas that is important for companies to know, but I do think it's really, people should really be judging just based on skills and competency, because then that's when you're going to realize that this person is the best fit for the job with regards to that. And, you know, then taking all the other elements out of it, and then you that's how you can really identify, you know, when people say I've identified the star candidate or the right candidate for the job, that's when you know you're going to get the right fit. Otherwise you're going to find companies going to find it a hard time recruiting so much people, and then they're not actually retaining those employees because they're not the right fit. So if companies are serious about that, then that's the way forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's also important to note that when we're looking at CVs and cover letters and going through that process, the other thing that we need to measure for, or close as possible, is potential, right? Because you want your employees to grow with you and scale with you and be able to, you know, fill the gaps that other employees don't have potentially. And so being able to hire not for just now, but to hire for the future is important, because that will mean that the candidates grow, they scale, you can retain them. And also it means that you can have people with different thought processes and creativity and come with different ideas. And so it's very important that we have not just that diversity, but that of you know, gender, ethnicity, and sexuality, etc., but also diversity of thought.
Yes, absolutely.
And inclusion of it too, because like you said, there's no point hiring someone and then you can't retain them. It's important to be able to make sure that they feel included, and that they're an asset to the team and to the organization.
Yeah, and that's where companies will really start to see the benefit of these employees, because, you know, you're bringing in more diverse, inclusive practices, and also like equity as well is also really important, offering people, you know, equal opportunities at the same level, you know. And I think that's another key aspect of the workplace as well. The main idea like of this series I want to actually touch upon is really equality in hiring is so important. I think, you know, there's so much, like, we as humans, we're all very different. There's not two humans that are exactly the same, you know. And I think we all come with different talents, or come with different skills, or all different personalities so much. And I think equality in hiring is so much more important now than it's ever been, especially, you know, offering that same, you know, when it comes to creating that level playing field for all candidates. You know, people want to be able to be treated with respect and know that they're going to be hired based on their skill set. And so realistically now, how would you suggest companies could help promote equality, whether it's in the hiring process or even just in the workplace? Where do they start?
Transparency is where I would probably start, because how many times I've seen the candidates not being told where they are in the hiring process, or, you know, why they didn't get through to the next stage. Giving them that sense of feedback will really help, right? Because then it feels like, you know, they haven't just been forgotten. Being able to give them those insights and being, you know, that they're not just a candidate, they're a human being, they're a person. And it's really tough. Over the past year, COVID has definitely had an impact in the hiring world, right? There was a lot of, you know, redundancies, furloughs, a lot of candidates were, you know, really, it was a very unstable world last year. And having that sense of transparency will feel that people are treated as equal, but bit more equally, because at the moment it's a black box. You apply and then you're either told you've got through or not, or you're at different stages of the hiring process. But I think it's about sharing as much as possible. So candidates feel that they're, you know, respected, and that they're, you know, it makes a bit more transparent in that mindset. And like one thing we've done within MeVitae is when we do blind recruiting for our clients, candidates can request to see what their redacted resumes look like, so they can see what, and that's the decision we made, because we wanted them to feel like we're respectful of their time, and that they're, you know, they feel like they're a part of this. And that transparency I think is really, really important. And also when if organizations are using technology, a lot of them are at the moment, especially for like kind of that screening process, explaining why a machine has come to a decision that it has, as much as possible. Really,
Yeah.
it's that explainability, because I don't think a lot of people get that at the moment. And so something we've also been very conscious about, if how do we explain to a recruiter or an employer how a machine has come to a decision that it has, so that when they're reviewing it, they can also look at it, review it, and even communicate that to the candidates. So I think that kind of open dialogue can give people that sense of, I'm in for it for the long haul, and I'm being treated as a person and not just a cog in the process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like the point when you mentioned about transparency, because that is a very key one. And I think just to even add to that one, accountability. I think the more companies are being more accountable for like their actions, like they maybe just be honest, just being honest about like, we're not where we want to be right now, but we are trying to get there.
Yeah, and then what are they doing at the back of that, right?
Exactly. What are they putting down?
Yeah, exactly. So put down what the actions are, so that 1 year down the line we can look back and go, okay, how far have we gone, right?
Yeah.
Because what I think is that we all just want to see change, and we want to see process that's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And if it's moving, then we're doing something right. But we need to be able to have that openness to know where we are at the moment, where we're going, and what the progress has been.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the definition of change.
There you go. That's perfect. That literally just sums it all up.
Good.
Oh my God. We've gone through so much insight. Like, thank you so much for this amazing episode of insights. Like, I've learned so much, like, honestly, like I've like, it's opened a new world of like what really bias and hiring really means, and how, companies can learn to really tackle this through, and the main thing is really just measuring that data and really understanding where they are, where they want to go, and how they're going to get there. That's it.
It's 100%. I think it could be really powerful, right? Because you can start building strategies, approaches, and it can actually really change an organization for the better. And it's the same for every, not just HR, but like finance, sales, tech. You can build this. There's so much more potential. We just need to untap it. And organizations that do focus on untapping it will be the ones that thrive.
There you go. That's it. If you want to survive, you gotta unlock that
potential.
Unlock that potential. That's the one. There we go.
Yes, unlock the potential, unleash it. Because
I love that.
Everyone's got a talent.
Thank you so much, Riham, for joining us today on this episode. It's been really insightful, and I appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Oh no, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
So what are the key takeaways from this episode? Well, it is important for companies to not only hire for now, but for the future, so employees can grow and scale with the organization. This tactic will help with employee retention, as well as building an inclusive team with diversity of thought. Also, there are different strategies to help promote equality in the hiring process. A very important one is transparency. Companies need to be transparent with candidates. This can be done through the feedback stage and by providing quality feedback. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode in the series.